Story 1. Original post. Am I the a-hole here for refusing to continue providing free childcare for my stepdaughter? I did a work program with the local clerk of court's office when I was in high school. They hired me when I graduated, and I had my 30 service years before I turned 50. With 30 service years, you can get your full pension at any age. I worked until my first grandchild was born. Then I retired to be grandma daycare. I have 5 grands, 8 male from my stepson, 7 male from my son, 5 female, and 18-month male from my daughter. I babysat all of them with no issues or complaints. I still keep the 18-month-old Monday, Friday, and the older ones summer and school holidays. My stepdaughter and her boyfriend has been non-stop drama since before the baby was born. When she was 10 weeks pregnant, they presented a 3-page list of rules for when I was babysitting. They said if I didn't sign it, they wouldn't allow me to babysit. I said that I understood their need to do what was best for their baby, and I assured them that there would be no hurt feelings on my end when they made other childcare arrangements. Some of the rules were almost understandable, but most were downright ridiculous, and none of it was going to work for me. I don't remember them all, but some examples are: I can't take the baby anywhere without their permission. I can't watch more than 1 additional child while babysitting. I can't cook. I had to provide the full name, job, and address of any potential visitors ahead of time for their approval of the person being around their child. They have to know anytime I have a guest over and know who it is and how long they stay. My 9-year-old cat would have to be kept out of rooms where the baby would be, even when the baby wasn't there. I couldn't get another pet without their agreement. When she was 7 months along, they came back with revised rules in an attempt to compromise. I again let them know that their expectations were not going to fit with my life, and they should just find other childcare. 2 days after my stepdaughter went back to work, she called and asked if I could keep Cullen the next day. I agreed, but made it clear that I was going to provide safe, appropriate care according to my judgment, and I wasn't going to deal with complaints or whatever that I was violating their rules because I wanted it very clear that I was not agreeing to any of that. My stepdaughter was okay on the days she picked Cullen up and dropped him off. I felt like she was interrogating me every time she picked him up, but it was tolerable, but her boyfriend was downright rude. I got to the point where I actually spent Sunday dreading the start of the week because of dealing with both of them, but especially his behavior. At minimum, he'd pick up Cullen, make a big deal of partially undress him, make at least one snide comment about my cat, or if I had any grandchild over besides the 18-month-old, or if I had cooked or whatever. Then he'd say, "I guess we don't have any choice but to put up with this for now." Or, "I guess you are happy that you won." This went on for 4 months. I spoke to my stepdaughter several times about it and told her that obviously they are very unhappy with how I cared for Cullen and that they should really work on finding something else, and that in the meantime he needed to be less vocal about it. It would get better for a day or two, and then he'd start again. It all came to a head as Thanksgiving was approaching. He was very verbal about the fact that he didn't want me to keep all my grandchildren over the break. I made it very clear that there would be a couple of days that I had all of them, and that they needed to make other arrangements if they had a problem. They didn't make other arrangements, and when he picked Cullen up on the first day that I had all my grands, he was very rude, and although nothing happened, everyone was happy, clean, fed, had a great day. He said to Cullen that he was sorry that they had no choice except to leave him in an unsafe situation to be neglected. I called my stepdaughter that night, relayed to her what was said, and told her that she had 2 weeks to make other arrangements, and that she needed to drop off and pick up Cullen during those 2 weeks, and if her boyfriend came to drop him off, I would refuse to keep him, and if he picked him up, I would not keep him again. So things were better only dealing with her. At some point, she asked me if I would keep him until January because they found someone, but he couldn't start until then. I agreed. She picked Cullen up and dropped him off. Everything was fine. New Year's Day. Several people sent me a screenshot of a post her boyfriend made on social media about how thankful he was that they were finally able to leave Cullen without worrying about his safety or him being neglected. He didn't outright name me or accuse me of anything specific, but anyone who knows us knows I was keeping him, and the post implied plenty. I was just happy that it was over. Friday, she called me and said that their new childcare provider had told her that Cullen wasn't a good fit and that she couldn't bring him back Monday. She asked if I would start keeping him again. I told her that I was sorry for their situation, but I really don't feel comfortable keeping him. My husband and stepson both think I should watch Cullen under the agreement that Amanda drop him off and pick him up because they think her boyfriend is the big problem and that I should just do it for Cullen's sake. My stepson also commented that I'd probably be more willing to let it go if it had been a conflict with my daughter's husband. My pension is about $4,000 month plus continuation of my health insurance. That's about 40% of our take-home income, if that matters. Am I the a-hole here for refusing to start watching Cullen again? Now for the comments. Not the AI-hole. No, you shouldn't put yourself through this for Cullen's sake. Cullen will get cared for regardless. There's no need for you to set yourself on fire because your stepdaughter and her boyfriend can't behave like normal human beings. Your husband and stepson are welcome to offer free childcare and put up with this treatment if it's important to them. But you've done your time. Learn from that experience and don't let yourself be put in the same situation again. There's a reason the licensed daycare won't keep him. It's the boyfriend. The liability alone would make me pause. He could ruin your lives, not the a-hole. I read that gaslighting runs deep in that crowd. You were so good with boundaries. Now they've slandered your name, called you unsafe and unfit until they need you again. If your husband and stepson want to help them, they should. I'm guessing the example of your daughter's sister-in-law doesn't include public shaming on Facebook. P.S. Those demands are nonsense and pretty funny considering they can't figure out their own lives but want to run your retirement. Good luck, because God forbid that baby gets mobile and bumps their head or some other minor issue comes up. Yeah, that couple is better off being someone else's headache than this sweet lady. Let your husband and stepson know they are welcome to watch the child and put up with the parents' outrageous, rude, and ungrateful behavior anytime they like. Not the a-hole. And poor Cullen seems to have 2 incompetent parents. Not to mention stepson can always find alternative free childcare if he wants to talk smack, especially since he will need to if his sister's dirtbag doesn't stop talking about abuse. If dirtbag keeps it up, it's not a case of grandma signs their rules like he thinks it is. It's a case of no one has a babysitter while grandma is investigated by Child Protective Services because a block down the pub reported it. So stepson is shooting himself in the foot trying to play the evil stepmother card despite the stepkids being the issue. He has accused you, publicly, of neglect. A crime. I wouldn't for that reason alone. She was publicly accused of neglect and child endangerment. I'd ask the husband and stepson if they are willing to work with people who call them criminals. Baby daddy has a real problem. That's very controlling behavior there. He also may have a distorted view of you if your stepdaughter has complained about her evil stepmother before the baby. Until she needed you, that is. I stopped reading at the babysitting rules. That in itself is too much. Not the AI hole. Edit to add. I'm not against babysitting rules as a practice even for free, but a 3-page signed document is specifically what I meant is too much. Update. First, let me just address the common suggestion that Amanda's boyfriend is purposely sabotaging their childcare to trap her at home. They make roughly the same amount of money and definitely can't afford to lose half their income. I seriously doubt he wants her to stay home. Second, I would never tell my stepson to find someone else to watch his child because of a simple difference of opinion. My grandson and I have a very close bond. He's the oldest, and it would break my heart and his if he didn't come spend his holidays and summers with me. Plus, he's a huge help with the little ones when I have them all and things get hectic. I would never be so petty as to make him, and all my other grandchildren, suffer because of an adult disagreement. So I sort of asked around about why they were dropped by their new sitter so quickly. Apparently they weren't. Amanda picked Cullen up and dropped him off both days he went, and everything was lovely. He did cry quite a bit, but they expected that to get better as he adjusted to not being held as much. My husband and stepson talked to Amanda, and she said that they realized that they can't afford daycare. They already made the easy changes, packing a lunch, giving up fancy coffee, etc. And his dad and her mom are both giving them about $100 a month towards childcare, and they can barely afford it. But they didn't realize that you have to send everything the baby needs. I buy diapers, wipes, formula, bottles, extra clothes, etc. They just hand me the baby. They didn't realize that daycare didn't cover all that. Also, imagine her boyfriend's surprise when he found out what the staffing rates are in this very expensive daycare. 1 adult cares for 5 infants. I guess he thought that someone would provide one-on-one care, diapers, wipes, and formula for $350 a week. My stepson relayed their almost apology. They felt overwhelmed by an infant and couldn't imagine that someone else could manage that plus other things. Cullen is going back to daycare tomorrow. Cullen's dad is selling his dirt bike, and Amanda is selling some designer clothes, handbags, and shoes to cover the cost. It'll get easier for them in 6 months when he transfers to the 1-year-old class, which is a little cheaper. Now for the comments. I love how Amanda's boyfriend was shocked to find out that daycare isn't a magical babysitting fairyland. Newsflash. Diapers don't grow on trees, buddy. Wonder if he is ever going to apologize for being an absolute idiot. What a moron. Not the AI hole. Gee, things cost money and babies are a lot of work. Boyfriend is a flaming idiot who killed the golden goose. He has no idea the favor you were doing them, and he is a crappy person. My bestie owned a daycare pre-COVID and our kids went to her. Even with the friend discount, it was $375 a week because we had 3 kids there, 2 full-time and 1 before and after school. She is a effing angel for discounting it so much. In our area, that usually would be 2.5 times that much, and we couldn't afford it. I thanked her constantly. I made sure our diapers and wipes were stocked plus extras just to be safe. I sent snacks for all the kids when I could. I brought her bottles of wine. Because that is how you treat someone doing you a huge favor. With gratitude. Her boyfriend is too stupid to breed. Sad she figured that out too late. My mom babysits for free for us to have dates. We have 5 kids still at home, blended family. So as you can imagine, babysitters are hard to come by and cost a lot. I got my mom a Massage Envy membership to say thank you. And regularly, my husband does stuff at her house she needs help with. Because we appreciate the fact people help us with our kids. They do not have to. Killing the golden goose is a great way to describe this level of idiocy. What happens when they run out of stuff to sell? Because little cheaper at the daycare is still better than free. I don't think Amanda knows how stupid her boyfriend is because Amanda is just as dumb. That poor baby. To me, Amanda is worse. She allowed her family to be poorly treated. She sounds awful, and with a guy she deserves. I hope OP's husband does not give them a penny. We agreed that he wouldn't when they first started giving me issues. It's a line in the sand, and I'd probably file for divorce. They thought the daycare provided everything, and provided one-on-one care for a mere $350 a week? They didn't do their research before choosing to have a baby at all, did they? They're lucky OP wasn't charging $350 a week. It's actually insane to think about how he went public with accusations of child neglect against you, and yet he didn't know the first thing about what his child would actually need in a daycare. Because you had it covered. Also, the almost apologies will never be enough until your stepdaughter's partner publicly retracts and apologizes properly for his earlier libel. I would push back against your stepson a bit, not in terms of changing anything with childcare, but just simply ask him why he thought it was appropriate to ask you to work for free for someone who publicly slandered you. You deserve a proper apology from both your husband and stepson as well. It's funny that he accused her of neglect just because she had her other grandkids over. So he takes the baby to daycare only to find out that the daycare worker also takes care of 4 other babies at once. LOL. It sounds like most days Op only had the baby and the 18-month-old, since I'm pretty sure the other kids were in school and were only there during school breaks. So for free, stepdaughter and boyfriend's baby was actually getting more attention, probably even with the other kids there because they are older and don't need as much as babies. And they didn't have to pay for diapers and formula and all that while the kid is being watched. Now they have the pleasure of paying for someone who watches 5 babies every day at once, and they have to provide diapers, formula, and whatever else the baby needs. It serves them right to have to sell their stuff to afford daycare. Maybe it will teach them not to bite the hand that feeds them, or don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Whichever one fits better. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for telling my roommate to stop cooking all the time? So I, 22 female, live with my roommate Katie, 24 female, and we've been roommates for like a year. Things were fine at first, but now I'm losing my mind because she's obsessed with cooking. At first it was kinda cool because she would make these fancy meals and sometimes offer me some, but now she's like doing it all the time and it's driving me nuts. She cooks literally every day, sometimes twice a day, and it's never simple stuff. It's always these big fancy recipes that use like every pot and pan we own. The kitchen is always a disaster, and she doesn't even clean up after herself right away. Like sometimes I'll go to bed and the next morning there's still dirty dishes and random food everywhere. Also, she started making weird stuff like fish stock and some kind of fermented stuff, and it makes the whole apartment stink. The fridge is also a huge issue. She's completely taken over all the space with her leftovers and jars of sauces and random ingredients. I can barely fit my milk and eggs in there. Last week, I came home starving after work and she was making this huge meal and she told me I had to wait like 2 hours to use the stove because she needed it for her process or whatever. I ended up eating cereal. So I told her she needs to chill and stop hogging the kitchen all the time and at least clean up after herself. She got super mad and said I'm unsupportive of her passion and I'm being selfish. She was like, "I don't complain when you watch TV all the time, so why are you complaining about this?" Which makes no sense because her cooking affects me directly. Now she's being all passive-aggressive, like saying, "Oh, I'll just eat frozen meals from now on since I'm such a problem." And I don't know. Now I feel kind of bad, but also like, I pay rent too and should be able to use my own kitchen. Am I the a-hole for saying something? Or should I just let her do her thing because it's her hobby? Now for the comments. Like, you need to have a sit-down discussion with her when you are both rested, not drinking and not cooking. You each deserve 50% of everything in the apartment and are each 100% responsible for cleaning up after yourself within a reasonable time frame. Decide what that is. My opinion would be within 2 hours. Offer to share the kitchen every other day. In other words, no cooking missions on your day. Simple meals that require heating up or leftovers. On her day, she can have at it as long as she cleans up after herself. And it's not your job to support her passions. It's her parents' or spouses'. And sometimes in life there are periods where you don't get immediate gratification or AITA boys. She needs to learn to deal with that. So, not the AI hole. Yeah, that makes sense. I hadn't thought about splitting kitchen days like that, but it might work. I definitely need to bring it up when we're both chill and not in the middle of her cooking marathon or me being frustrated. Thanks for the suggestion. I'd be more generous than that. She can cook every day, but there needs to be a window for you to make food. Likewise, maybe you don't need half the fridge, but at least one shelf is reasonable. It shouldn't be about stopping her. It should be about enabling you. If you have space for your stuff in the fridge, that is enough. If you have access to the cooking facilities when you need to eat, this is enough. If she is going to claim the whole kitchen for 2 hours across a mealtime, then she should ask first and ensure you have a chance to get food. Not the a-hole. The problem isn't her cooking. The problem is she's treating the kitchen like she lives alone. You both share a kitchen, so she needs to make sure to leave enough space for you to be able to make your meals and for your own stuff in the fridge. She also needs to clean up after because, again, she doesn't live alone. You may need those pots or utensils. If she's going to continue hogging up all the space, then she needs to make food for you as well and make sure it's available for you to eat before she takes 2 hours on the stove. She also really needs to make things that don't stink up the whole house. She can experiment with stuff like that later, when she lives alone or with a partner who doesn't mind. It's not life or death where she absolutely has to make this stuff right now. Definitely not the AI hole. It's your apartment too, and you have a right to use the appliances. She also gets to watch the TV too. Maybe you need a roommate agreement where you set out ground rules for cohabitation. Stand your ground. If it's truly her passion, maybe she needs an external outlet for it, like culinary school. Yeah, honestly, a roommate agreement could help. I just don't want to come off too controlling, but she definitely needs to chill. I didn't think this would be my verdict in the first half, but I'm actually saying not the AI hole. It's great. She's found a passion in everything, but when it's to the point you're not able to cook and store food yourself, then it's not fair. I don't see why she couldn't compromise and maybe make more elaborate meals at weekends and focus on cooking fresh but quicker meals on weekdays, or something like that. Not every meal needs to be super intricate to be nice.
Thank you for listening. If you like the video, consider like and subscribe. If you want more stories like these, turn on your notification to receive the latest stories.